Hello. You're listening to Politics, a Harry Potter reread podcast focusing on politics in the wizarding world. I am one of your hosts, Adri, the recovering English major, so majorly pissed off that the conservative, oh my god, I can't
even say the word. You hate it so much.
I hate it so much. Conservative backed and highly funded politicians and, lobbyists, blah, 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 are turning Texas into a testing ground for the continued control of people's bodies, specifically the bodies of people who can get pregnant.
Yep. Like a great TikTok I saw earlier this week said, they only care about people who haven't been born yet.
Oh, yeah. There's like this great activist Catholic nun who talks about how like the supposed pro-life movement isn't pro-life unless you're also pro all the social safety nets, and education measures that would help, people struggling.
Yep. It's something that
I've been... You know what? Like, that's a Catholic,
Yeah. Something I've been hoping that conservatives and Republicans would get their head around for ages, but, Anyway.
It seems they're pretty thick-headed, Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about that more in Potter Watch if we want, but until then, I'm Helene, your other host, the producer of this podcast, and also just an adult trying to find a good balance in her life. And now that work is starting to slow down, I'm actually kind of finding it a little bit more, and it's just nice. Like it went from like hating my job to absolutely loving my job to being absolutely crazy and trying to figure out the balance. And now I'm kind of like finally everything's starting to level out and it's going well. Looking up.
In the words of Alexis Rose, love this for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, today we're going to be talking about chapter 9 titled The Half-Blood Prince of, you guessed it, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince.
It is the self-titled album, if you may. Like, it's just, this is the self-titled chapter.
I love it. I love it so much. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of what we think the politic is for chapter 9, I think we should talk about what's happening in the United States in our Potter Watch segment.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about it right at the beginning with everything that's going on with Texas, but we can get back into that. But there was one other thing I wanted to bring up in Potter Watch that stood out to me because Biden did something good, and we always like to call him out when he's doing something bad, but also celebrate when he does something good. And he asked OSHA to order vaccine mandates for large employers. So new federal safety regulations that he's enacting are now calling for businesses with more than 100 workers to require vaccinations against COVID, which is awesome. And if they don't get
vaccinated, they have to get tested on a weekly basis, right?
Yep. So the proposed rules in this new regulation, they propose that workers will be required to either be inoculated, so vaccine, or face weekly testing, and will mandate that the businesses offer employees paid time off to get vaccinated if they have not been vaccinated yet. So, and this is all employers with over 100 workers, like nationwide. So that's a huge deal.
I saw a statistic earlier on Twitter, and I take Twitter statistics with a huge grain of salt.
Yeah.
And it was like showing like vaccine percentages by religion. And like evangelical Christians was like 57%. But every other religion that was like listed, or not even religion, just like spiritual belief, including atheists. Atheists were like the higher vaccinated group. And like evangelical Christians were like the lowest.
I mean, a lot of the times religion does somewhat tie into political beliefs, and I feel like whether or not people get vaccinated is a very political decision. Not so much a religious decision, but they do.
Let's be real,
they tend to be related sometimes.
Also, who is like super like where the anti-vax like movement is super huge is also an evangelical Christian churches.
Yeah.
there's like that political aspect of, yeah, also evangelical Christian suburban white women. I'm not saying they all are, but a large portion of them are anti-vax.
Yeah, and this was probably even before COVID too, like just in
Yes,
general, anti-vax.
definitely before COVID as well. Like it has been something that people have been tracking for like at least the last 10 years. This trend of anti-vax, the rise of anti-vax in like white suburban moms.
Yeah. As far as like employers, I know that like my sister who works for Humana, who is like a health insurance company, a large, very large health insurance company in the United States, they announced to their hundreds and hundreds, I don't even know how many employees they have, probably thousands of employees.
Probably, yeah.
They announced like a month or so ago that they were going to require vaccinations for all employees. And if you don't get your vaccine, then you are fired. And that was before this mandate came out that Biden pushed. And so like, I mean, it's just a step forward. It's a step in the right direction. People are, if it's get the vaccine or lose your job, like I think that this will cause a big push for people who wouldn't have normally gotten the vaccine to get it just because they need that job and their job security and their, financial.
Yeah, and it's not like vaccinations are not required in other areas.
No, yeah, it's totally normal.
Like to like enroll in school, you have to be vaccinated. You have to have certain vaccinations to be enrolled in school.
Yeah.
Also, to join the military, you also have to have certain vaccines. So like this, like everyone's like, I don't know why I have to get the vaccine. Like it's like infringement of my rights, and I'm just like, wait, but you needed to do this before too. It's just that this is a new vaccine.
Let me see if I can find. There was something on Twitter I saw the other day that just cracked me up. Let me see if I can find it really quick. It was like a local politician that was like, my son who's in the military. Oh, here it is. Okay. It's Sandra McDowell. I think they're a Missouri representative. Mm-hmm. And she wrote, my nephew, active duty Air Force, just got word that they have to be fully vaccinated by November 2nd, and there will be no exemptions. Any suggestions on what he can do besides getting dishonorably discharged, which will affect him for the rest of his life? And all the people that were responding were just like, he can get vaccinated. He had to get 12 vaccines before joining the Air Force. This is just another one. What about all the other vaccines he had to get just to join the Air Force? Another vaccine.
She's not counting those. Come on.
It was just I was just dying at all the responses.
God bless. Well, I love Twitter. I mean, the internet is both a wonderful and deeply dark place at the same time.
Yes.
So I both love and hate Twitter as well.
Very true.
Well, with that out of the way, other than Merrick Garland suing Texas, I don't think I have any more to say about this terrible, horrible, no good law.
Terrible, horrible, no good day. Yes.
Exactly. You're welcome. Because I think we've talked it to death. That law needs to be stroked, put to bed.
One thing I wanted to mention is I saw there was a juxtaposition I noticed and that was mentioned recently was just and I mean this is obvious, but Texas was a big and still is a big anti-mask, anti-vax state. And a lot of the arguments are my body, my choice. I don't the government can't force me to put a mask on. The government can't force me to get a vaccination. It's my body. It's my choice.
I know.
And the juxtaposition of,
fucking irony of it all.
The government can't force me to get a vaccine or can't force me to wear a mask, but they can force me to keep a baby in my body for 9 months and give birth to a child.
This is the most insidious part of it all. The government can't enforce SB 8. That is why the Supreme Court hasn't stepped in, because it's not the government enforcing it. It's vigilante citizens who get to enforce it, which is even more sinister.
It's amazing.
That's why I'm so mad. I'm like, really? Are we really doing this? We're putting the livelihoods of medical professionals and anyone who even like helps someone to get to a clinic at risk, like their livelihoods at risk. And anyone can sue anyone at all without having any connection to them.
Yep.
That's just the most insidious part of everything.
The world is trash, and let's talk about Harry Potter.
Yeah, the world is trash. I hate like all these conservative think tanks that came up with this idea and used Texas as the guinea pig. This idea definitely came from outside of Texas and was embraced by Texas. Don't get me wrong. I understand that. But it's also being done in Texas because Texas has the fastest changing demographic of the nation. Okay. Like, we are becoming a state that is rapidly a state where white people are dwindling in percentages. So whenever white supremacy and the patriarchy find themselves in trouble, this is what they do.
Yep.
They try to institute a hamster tail, you know?
Those good old white people.
Great. I have nothing personally against white people, but as a whole, not a fan.
Yeah, we can fuck up sometimes. We can be total fuck ups.
I'm gonna say like the thing, you know, how I was like, I'm not racist. I have a person of color friend. Like, I don't hate white people. I'm married to one, but as a whole, I have also white friends. But as a whole, y'all aren't recommending yourselves too well.
I apologize on behalf of white people.
Thank you. I really appreciate that you do that. Yeah. But let's get on with the chapter. Tell me, what happened in this chapter?
Yes. So in the chapter we're going to be discussing today, this is the one where everyone gets their 6th year Newt schedules and attends their first day of classes. It's a nice old first day of Hogwarts chapter. Always nice.
I love those chapters.
Those. Yeah, me too. The trio experience Snape's first Defense Against the Dark Arts lesson in nonverbal spells, and then compete for a vial of Felix Felicis in Slughorn's potions class. Harry ends up receiving the Half-Blood Prince's book and following their special instructions to win the coveted prize.
Well, I want to say, like, you describing Snape's delivery as a lesson is such a generous description.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
technically, technically it's a lesson.
Yeah, but like,
he didn't actually teach anything. He was just like, get up and do it.
Get up and do it. Figure it out. No, I'm not going to tell you how to fucking do it. That's your job. Yeah. Like, you got to figure it out. Hello.
Yep. He's such a great teacher he is. Like, with potions.
I get paid to teach? Like, what does that look like? No.
Yeah, with potions, at least, like, he's really like an expert on the subject, and therefore, like, maybe some of his knowledge ends up rubbing off on the kids.
Because he's like, just open the thing, follow the instructions. Good fucking luck.
Yeah, he just writes instructions on the board. Yeah.
Yeah. Good fucking luck.
But like, he's not even. I feel like he's not even good enough in Defense Against Dark Arts to even have that for him in these lessons. I don't know. It was just a bad idea on Dumbledore's part to have him teach Defense Against Dark Arts.
I think Snape is just big on the theatrics. That's like all he's interested in. It's like,
but you know what?
I'm mysterious and dark.
I am here though for the trio finally having like a non-toxic potions class environment. Like being able to finally
I have thoughts about that we will get into. Yes.
Yeah, just like finally being able to have a class that they normally hate, like finally being able to enjoy the subject because it's not being taught by a complete
But I'm very sad that for
asshole.
The second year in a row, they're having like a class that they love, Defense Against the Dark Arts, and a class they need.
Yeah.
Not be taught well.
Well, that was what the DA was for, right? Like to help bring joy back into Defense Against Dark Arts, basically.
Yeah. So like could you imagine like going from like So going, I'm going to start with Lupin because he's like
The
the
best.
bar. Like that's where I
Yeah.
set my bar.
Same.
Right.
Yeah, he's the best.
Like going from Lupin to like Barty Crouch Jr. pretending to be Moody.
He at least like was good at teaching the subject.
Yeah, but it was like a slight, a little bit lower. Yes.
Yeah.
And then going to like literal hell with Dolores Umbridge.
Yeah.
And then being like, well, you know what, guys? It's not going to get any worse because, like, last year it's fucking terrible. And then being like, oh, your new Defense Against Dark Arts teacher? Snape?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we've all had these experiences, especially like in high school and stuff, where we have a favorite subject, and one year, your favorite subject is being taught by just like the worst teacher. Like I'm sure Spanish was my favorite subject, and I'm sure that there was probably one year where I had a Spanish teacher I hated. Like it's difficult, but like, does it in the end affect your love for the subject? Probably not. It just makes you not excited to go to class.
But honestly, like, with Dolores and with Snape, like they definitely suffer emotionally as well throughout the year.
Very true. Very true.
It wasn't just like this teacher is annoying.
No, very true. You're right. Yes, it's a different level.
Well, speaking of the chapter and like everything that happened in it, when you read it, Helene, what did you think the politic was for you? What jumped out?
Yeah, I had a hard time with this one. It was just one of those chapters that I didn't feel was like super inherently political.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I decided to go with the politic of cheating.
Okay.
And cheating in the context of specifically school and education, not like, cheating in a relationship or things like that. They're different contexts. So cheating in the context of school and education involves unauthorized use of information, materials, devices, sources, or practices in completing academic activities. So that's the definition.
Mm-hmm.
So we see cheating a couple of times in academic settings in this chapter. The first one being in Snape's Defense Against Dark Arts lesson, because he didn't give the students the tools that they needed to like learn how to do nonverbal spells. Everybody was just whispering spells.
I know, it was great.
So like they were cheating because they weren't taught how to do it, and they just like wanted to be able to say that they were doing the assignment, because if they did nothing, then they get in trouble. So they were just like whispering spells to cheat and get around the lesson. And then the next one, this one I'm interested to hear your thoughts and like even our listeners' thoughts, but like Hermione sees Harry using the Half-Blood Prince's book and his special instructions that are written in the margins as cheating. And I'm not exactly sure I agree. I don't know. I want to hear what I have thoughts, but like, just, is that cheating? Because he is technically he's getting outside help, but he didn't like seek it. And he's not doing everything on his own merit. Like he's not like naturally talented at making these potions. He's getting instructions that are different than everybody else's.
Mm-hmm.
And like, because he did better than Hermione thinks that he cheated because that's Hermione.
I think the thing that makes it to me a little bit more cheating than not is the fact that he did not share with Professor Slughorn, like, hey, I did it based on these annotations, not what the textbook said.
Yeah, I mean, I get a little bit more into it in the quote, because I read directly from like that part where they're talking about whether or not it's cheating. So I'll wait till then, but basically, yeah, I mean, this whole chapter is kind of like people, getting ahead, succeeding in one way or another by, in using the unauthorized use of information, materials, devices, sources, or practices in order to complete their academic goals. So that's why I picked.
Totally see that. Yeah, totally see that. Even the concept of Amorentia is a little bit like cheating, right? Because it's a love potion. Like, like Polyjuice Potion also is a way of cheating, and so is Felix Felicis, right? So like even the potions mentioned here are a form of cheating in different ways.
And technically Veritaserum too, because like there are ways to get the truth out of people
without
forcing it out. Yeah.
without resorting to for lack of a better word, chemical means.
Yeah, no,
I know
exactly.
it's not chemistry, but you know.
Yeah. I mean, potions is the chemistry of the wizarding world, so
yeah. So yeah, okay. So I really like your politic. Mine is selfishness masked as self-reliance, and like that is. So I know this. It sounds like a mouthful, and it is. So like we as people may be well versed in the politics of self-reliance, or as Americans call it, the American dream, if we have been raised in an individualistic culture. At the core of self-reliance is selfishness that fails to recognize privilege. Like the myth of self-reliance is centered on hard work, quote unquote, being equal to the output, but fails to recognize that a lot of factors can go into material or social success. So in this chapter, we see that in a couple of ways, but for me, the most obvious way is Snape's refusal to share his knowledge with Hogwarts students and the wizarding world at large. For one, his lessons are devoid of instruction.
Yep.
But as we know from annotated potions books, he could have, revised and published his own version of potions books to share with the academic and potion making wizarding world. Yet he didn't do that. Why is that?
Yeah. I mean, before you say more, I just like this thought just hit me that like he is sitting there like I guess my question is he when he's teaching potions, is he teaching his own like version?
Think so. I don't think so, because if not, if he
like,
had been,
why is this entire class not like geniuses at potion making right now?
Because if he had been teaching his own version, we can see that Harry can follow the instructions from the book, from Snape's annotations. And he would have been great at it from the get-go.
Yeah.
So I don't think Snape is teaching his own version, ever.
Yeah. What an asshole. he has like all these secret things. Like he has a platform as a potions teacher. Yeah, as a potions teacher, he has a platform to share this special knowledge that he has gained from, being good at potions and all these special tricks.
And I'm not discounting his hard work, of course.
Yeah, but like he could be passing this on as an educator, passing this on to the next generation and helping everybody become better potion makers. And yet he's withholding it.
And I think that's where I talk about selfishness, right? Yeah. He thinks that because he had to suffer or work hard, and he probably diminishes every privilege he's had to make him get to that point.
Yeah.
He thinks, well, I don't have to fucking share this. They can figure it out on their own if they want to.
Yeah, like, I don't understand. Like, since okay, spoiler alert, Snape is the Half-Blood Prince. Spoiler alert.
What?
I know, crazy.
What?
So, like, if Harry is taking his instructions from the book and does amazingly well on his first day, just following his instructions, Snape's instructions, why has he sucked all other years of potions class? Explain this to me, people. Like,
it's
I know
because Snape did not put on the board the real instructions that he would have followed.
I just know people are going to be listening to this and be like, well, of course he was teaching his own methods. Like, he's too arrogant to not be boasting about how smart he is.
No, I think he is too selfish. I think he is too selfish to share this very useful knowledge with the rest of the wizarding world. I think he'd rather remain in the quote unquote shadows as
and it's
Snape,
kind of
the
like
person he is, than to share his wisdom.
And it's kind of like the whole access to knowledge thing, right? Like, in the only way that he can ensure that he's still the smartest person in the room is if he doesn't teach
Just
his
like when he was
ways.
trying to teach Harry occlumency, quote unquote, teach.
He wants to be the best. He wants to be the best at it. At his field, he wants to, be the smartest person in the room. And if he teaches everybody how to be the smartest person in the room, he won't be the smartest person in the room anymore.
Like, he is legitimately the definition of a gatekeeper.
Yeah.
And
what an asshole.
I know. So my take is that he wants to like hoard all of this information and lord this information over people as power, right? Because in his mind, if he had to figure it out, then other people need to as well. And if they can't figure it out, then they're not worthy.
This man 1000% should never have been an educator.
Yeah.
He doesn't even want to teach people. He doesn't want to teach people. Why are you an educator if you don't want to teach people how to do things well?
He doesn't want notoriety, because then he would have to share, right? Like the knowledge.
Man.
I know. Just a wonderful person all around.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, what a great guy, Snape. Love that guy.
Love that guy. Wow. What a regular Ted Lasso, that guy.
They should never be in the same sentence.
I know. You almost wheezed. I love it.
So we'll move on to the in-depth discussion. So I mentioned the quoter moment for cheating for me. I'm going to read the little passage that I found in this chapter. It says, this is Harry speaking. It says, "I suppose you think I cheated," he finished, aggravated by her expression. "Well, it wasn't exactly your own work, was it?" she said stiffly. "He only followed different instructions to ours," said Ron. And then I stopped writing the quote, but it goes on to say, like, Ron goes on to say, like, he took a big risk. Like, he followed these instructions. He had no idea how they were going to turn out. It could have been a disaster, but he took the risk and it ended up working out for him. So, like,
what a capitalist way of thinking about it, Ron.
Yeah. So, like, at first I was like, I don't know, is it cheating? But then honestly, and you're not going to hear me say this very often, ever, but I agree with Ron. I'm like in Ron's line of thinking in this particular area at this moment.
Yeah, and I mean, surprising no one, I am like squarely on Hermione's camp.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We got a good,
I mean, I'm squarely like, well, I think it is cheating because, one, I'm not disagreeing with like your or Ron's point.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't believe I said that.
I know, and that's the weirdest. It's like, it feels weird in your mouth.
Point. Yeah, like, oof. It's just a weird mouth feel, just like when I say conservative. No, but the point to me is like, you follow the instructions, you did your own thing, great. But when you got the prize and the reward, you didn't say thank you, but you should also know the reason I got it was because look at these notes. Like, he didn't share it with the professor, who could have shared it with the rest of the class.
Yeah. He's benefiting from like something
from the privilege, right?
Yeah.
And he's not sharing that knowledge and privilege. So in a way, I'm not saying that he's just as bad as Snape. Snape is worse for never sharing his insights with the rest of the class, the rest of Hogwarts, the rest of the wizarding world.
Yeah, I guess the way that I kind of see it is like, say that there's a test and everybody has been given the basic information to study for the test. But like, some people just study directly from the information they were given. And then some people, go in and do their extra research or, get more information.
Yeah, but he didn't do extra research. It was just handed to him.
He didn't do extra research, but also and then there are some people who just like, are studying the same material that everybody else is, but they just have a more effective like method of studying.
That's not what happened.
Yeah.
Literally what he was handed was annotations on the original, like, if we're continuing this thing, like on the original thing, and it allowed him to pass the test better than the people who were given just the information.
Okay. So you think he cheated?
I think that it is cheating.
Yeah.
Because again, he did not fess up
Right.
and said, like, hey, this turned out really well. Professor, you should really look into this. Like, why are we not doing this instead of what everyone else is doing? Because look at my potion, and like, I'm no talented potions person, you know?
Yeah. Okay. All right. I still kind of like, I'm still kind of weirdly on
It's
Ron's
okay.
side.
It's okay. I mean, we all have our days.
You know, like, why should Harry be punished for, you know, getting a little extra help that he didn't ask for and, you know, using it? You know, it's just
But you know what that's called? Privilege.
privilege. Yes, it's true. Anyway, what is the quarter moment for your self-reliance?
All right. So
Selfishness
it
masked
is,
as self-reliance.
yes. So, or we could call it like the myth of self-reliance if we
Okay.
want to be like more quippy, right? I guess. But like at the root of it is selfishness to my mind.
Okay.
All right. So it says Harry stirred counterclockwise, held his breath, and stirred once clockwise. The effect was immediate. The potion turned pale pink. How are you doing that? Demanded Hermione, who was red-faced and whose hair was growing bushier and bushier in the fumes from her cauldron. Her potion was still resolutely purple. Out of clockwise, sir. No, the book says counterclockwise, she snapped. Harry shrugged and continued what he was doing. 7 stirs counterclockwise, 1 clockwise, pause, 7 stirs counterclockwise, 1 stir clockwise. And it's just like, instead of saying like, Hermione, like, this is like the annotations I see, like, he just like shrugged and was like, whatever, you do you, girl. Like,
Yeah.
and and I'm not saying like, oh my god, that's like Harry being like the most selfish prick ever. No, not at all. But it, like, to me, like I've said previously, why I chose this politic was because in rereading this chapter, I was like, excuse me, why did Snape not share this information with the rest of the world?
Yeah.
And I mean, I know Harry at least tries to share that information with Hermione in this moment and even later on. And she's obstinate and stubborn, as you know, as women can be, or us nerds can be. I'm like, but that's not what the book says.
She's a rule follower. Her and Percy, man.
But I'm not thinking that Snape was like trying to share this like knowledge with everyone at Hogwarts, even when he was at Hogwarts, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but I just have to say, you reading the quote that you chose, it just like, it just reminded me that this scene in in the movie is like absolutely perfect. Like,
Perfection.
they plucked this scene directly out of the book. Like, you're reading, even when I was like just reading the book, I was reading that scene and I was just imagining Emma Watson with her hair getting poofier and poofier throughout the scene, and her snapping and like being like, "Oh my god, what are you doing?" Like, it's great.
How are you doing that?
Yeah,
I love it. I love it so much.
speaking,
That's, as you know, this is the moment where I imprinted on this moment very heavily because I was like,
yeah,
I have been there. I get it.
right. Well, speaking of Hermione, she is the character that I chose for my topic, which the politic was cheating. I picked Hermione not because she cheats, I picked her specifically because she's the only one in this entire chapter who pointedly does not cheat at all and has a very strong moral opposition to it. Like, even in Snape's Defense Against the Dark Arts lesson, she is the only one who successfully does a nonverbal spell without cheating.
God bless. I mean, if anyone can do it, it's Hermione.
Exactly, right. And, she specifically will not cheat, even though she sees that Harry's methods are getting him a faster and better result in real time. She refuses to change from the book that's in front of her, the instructions she's been given. And when she finds out that that's how Harry succeeded, has a strong moral opposition to any form of cheating whatsoever. Whether or not Harry was cheating is still under debate. It's still questionable. But Hermione thinks he was, and she is not okay with it.
She is not okay. You know who else is not okay in my book? Is Snape, and that's the character I chose.
No, he's not okay.
Because everything it's clear to me from all the times we've seen him in potions, right? And this now Defense Against the Dark Arts class, he masquerades. He's like, oh yes, like you have to be self-reliant. I'm just teaching you how to be self-reliant. And what he's being is cruel and selfish.
Yeah, Snape is the perfect character for your politic. That's true.
Just like, again, in the words of Helene, definitely shouldn't be an educator.
100%. Yeah, no, not. I don't. Literally the worst decision. Yeah. So,
how do you see your politics throughout the book?
Yeah, mainly just Harry continuing to use the book and succeed in potions class. If we consider that cheating, then that would be seeing cheating throughout the book. We're still so early on in the chapter, and it's been such a long time since I've read the book that I can't think of any other specific instances in the future of the book where people cheat. But, Hermione is going to have a very strong opposition to Harry using this book throughout the entire book. Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Man.
Right. Yeah. Like there are things that in every book that Hermione will not shut up about. I think it was in book 4 or 5. She would not. I think it was book 4. She would not shut up about the fact that you can't apparate inside of Hogwarts. And this book, she will not shut up about the fact that Harry is using a book and he shouldn't, with help, and shouldn't be using it.
Well, I will not shut up about the fact that Snape doesn't share his knowledge, and he clearly has really good knowledge to share.
Yep.
Not just in potions, but also Defense Against the Dark Arts. That he refuses for some selfish reason to share and then make people feel like shit when they can't achieve the same results because he omitted like all the steps.
Yeah, educators should not be selfish. Selfish people should not be allowed to be made educators.
Well, I don't think selfish people should be in the community at large.
Oh, so selfish people should be wiped from the face of the planet. Death to selfish people.
I'm just saying, selfish people maybe should be segregated in their own communities.
I mean, sure. I guess I can agree with that, but it's a large statement. But in general, I feel
like when you think about like selfish people, like, of course, not educators, but also like, would you want to work with a selfish person in your office?
I mean, yeah, like selfish people exist everywhere, all day, every day. And I just think that it should be a prerequisite. Like you should, like, how you have to be vaccinated to go to school. You should have to be selfless to be a teacher. You should, like, it should be a requirement.
Or at least have like a basic empathy, like, yes.
You should selflessness, empathy, the actual like desire to better the next generation and prepare them for what's to come. Like, just,
look, I know the bar is in hell when I say this, but like, at least not have general contempt for students.
Right. I mean, just basic not contempt for students is great. Yeah.
Just like, I know the bar is in hell, but like,
it's a radical idea.
This is where we are, okay? I'm only meeting us where we are in this moment.
Well, I mean, speaking of Snape, what are our Dementors this week?
Speaking of the bar being in hell, let's talk about terrible things. Obviously, Snape is my Dementor for this chapter.
I mean, same.
How could he not be?
Same.
Snape trying to humiliate Harry in the middle of the Defense Against the Dark Arts class.
Yeah, and like possibly like attack him too, kind of.
So like humiliate and attack. Great. Fantastic.
Yeah, I
wonderful.
mean, just the culmination of him not he literally gave zero instruction in his Defense Against Dark Arts lesson. He was like, okay, we're doing nonverbal spells. Why would we do a nonverbal spell? What is the benefit of doing it? And okay, great, now do it. Like, literally, absolutely no. And like, you're a teacher. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to teach you how, all the numbers of pi. Tell me what all the numbers of pi are. You can't just skip the middle part where you actually do the teaching.
Yeah, no, but that's what he does. He's like, so this is what he does. He's like, let's pretend it's a cooking class, right? And he goes, here is here's, I don't know, a souffle, right?
Right.
In front of you are some ingredients. I'm not sure if like they're measured right, but I want you to create this.
Yeah.
That's it. It's not that hard.
I gave you all the ingredients.
Yeah, so it's like it's like that part of Great British Bake Off, like, right? But like, you've never baked in your life.
The technical, yeah. But at least they give them like, they like say like, okay, you do this and then you mix this and then you put it in the oven. But they don't say how long you put it in the oven for.
No, it's the technical without instructions.
Right. Yeah.
And possibly without all the ingredients.
Right, yeah.
And also, you've never baked before. Like, that's the important part.
Yeah, you're not even an amateur baker. You're just like someone who's never stepped in a kitchen.
You just peeked at Easy Bake Oven.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, same. Snape is my Dementor as well. Although I do have to say, like, it was a little hard at first trying to think of a Dementor because I actually really like this chapter.
Such a great chapter, I will say that.
As much as we have to say about the shittiness that is Snape, overall, the chapter was pretty damn great, which is why I have 3 different chocolates for this chapter.
Speaking of the Great British Bake Off.
Yes.
Sweet.
Chocolate week. It's always like, freaking 150 degrees in the tent during chocolate week, and they have to temper chocolate. I mean, sorry, guys, if you guys haven't watched Great British Bake Off, go do that. But you're not going to get these references.
Soul, honestly. And I love cooking shows and cooking competitions.
Great British Bake Off is like the pinnacle of all cooking shows. It's great.
Also great if you've watched Great British Bake Off and you need something that is like also kind of light and friendly, but it's, there's MasterChef Junior.
Oh yeah, that I do like MasterChef Junior. That one's fun because you get to see Gordon Ramsay, but like he's nice. He's nice to kids. It's great. I love it.
It's great. I was like, wow, he has a soul.
And then if you really want to like find some juxtaposition there and like really just flip it on its head, watch like an episode of MasterChef Junior and then just an episode of MasterChef and watch how he annihilates the adults. Or
Hell's Kitchen.
Yes. And just annihilates the adults, but is so sweet to the kids. It's great.
The sweetest.
He would never tell a kid that they're an idiot sandwich.
Oh my God, never. And he talks about like even when they're eliminated, spoiler alerts, kids get eliminated. It's like, I am so proud of you, kind of thing. And you're like, Gordon Ramsay, what?
Yeah. Well, anyway, we kind of skipped ahead to the media, but chocolate. Let's talk about chocolate.
Okay, so my chocolate is McGonagall complimenting Neville and also letting it slip that perhaps his grandmother's prejudices come from her own short-sightedness and shortcomings. Whew.
Yeah.
She like built him up and then spilled some tea, and I am here for it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this was one of my 3 chocolates.
Oh, wow. Well, do tell your other 2.
Yeah, so I had a hard time choosing, so I did pick 3. Sorry. It probably won't happen a ton, but I decided to make an exception for this chapter because I did really like this chapter. I mean, I really like...
Last chapter, we were grasping at straws.
Yeah, last chapter was awful. But, like, I really like this book. So, like, I feel like I'm gonna have this issue a little bit more often in this book than any other book. Anyway. So, yeah, I specifically picked the quote from what McGonagall said to Neville. as one of my chocolates. So it's high time your grandmother learned to be proud of the grandson she's got, rather than the one she thinks she ought to have, particularly after what happened at the ministry.
Got me choked up, girl.
Yeah, I like fucking yes. Like, it was amazing. Love that quote. And so that was the first one. The second one was, I mean, I feel like I can't do this chapter and not have this as my chocolate because it's iconic. But Harry's
it is an iconic line, and that was almost my chocolate.
Yeah, Harry's iconic "there's no need to call me Sir Professor" line, like, is in this chapter. Best fucking, one of the best fucking lines in the entire series. Loved it. And the fact
Harry.
that, like,
you and I love a sassy Harry.
Yes. And the fact that, like, people in the class, like, audibly gasped when he said it was just, like, great.
Yeah.
And then this last one was something that I've read this book how many times, and I don't think I've ever, like, caught on to this before. But it's in the potions class, and I'll read the quote, but they're all sitting around and they're smelling amortentia. And it says, somehow it reminded him simultaneously of treacle tart, the woody smell of a broomstick handle, and something flowery he thought he might have smelled at the burrow. And me and my little hinny shipper ears, like, perked up. And I was like, oh my god, does he smell Ginny and not realize that it's Ginny?
Well, I think there's a later section in the chapter where that is confirmed.
Oh, I hope so. When we get to that, I'm gonna scream.
Okay, so no, in this chapter.
Oh, in this chapter? Really? What is it?
Yes. So I'm trying to find it for you. Okay, so all right. Hang on, said a voice close by Harry's left ear, and he caught a sudden waft of that flowery smell he had picked up in Slughorn's dungeon.
How did I miss that?
He looked around and saw that Ginny had joined them.
How did I miss that? Oh my god. Okay, like...
I think listeners, Alina's having a meltdown.
I'm like crying. It's so cute. Okay, so like this is one of the reasons why one of the main reasons this book is my favorite book, because it does such a good job at, like, introducing the Harry-Ginny relationship and making you, like, it's one of those things where it comes out of nowhere, but at the same time, like, hits you in the face and you're like, holy shit, how did I not see this all along, type of thing. It does like just a fucking amazing job, and this is just part of it where, like, he has we as readers, along with Harry, because we're reading this from Harry's perspective, have absolutely no idea that he has any romantic feelings whatsoever towards Ginny, but his brain knows. His fucking nose knows.
His nose, his heart.
Right.
His being.
Like, the fact that he smells this woman that he loves with amortentia and doesn't even realize that it's her yet. Like, oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Sorry. I love it.
I'm so glad that I was able to provide you with
I can't believe that I skipped past that, like that I didn't catch on to that.
It is well, it might have been because it is like the last half page.
Wow. Yeah.
Of the chapter.
I mean,
and this was a jam-packed chapter, I will say.
Yeah, man. So all three of these things that I just listed, I love so much. How could I have possibly chosen between them? You know, like, they were all great.
Like, you're just like doing like a really big squeal.
So this is why I love this book, and this is why I love this chapter, because of shit like this.
Well, honestly, after a chapter like last chapter, we deserve this.
Yes, this chapter is just a treat. Thank you for existing.
Well, today we are going to be talking later on in our Patreon only section about going off book. What can the annotated text tell us about Hogwarts curriculum and the state of wizarding education? basically is the topic at hand.
Okay.
And if you, listener, are not a patron and you're like, that sounds interesting, you can join us over at patreon.com/archaeopolitics for as little as $2 a month.
Yep. So, as Adri just mentioned, $2 a month is going to get you access to all that really cool bonus content that we talk about every week in feed. It's really fun. We have some really good discussions, and if you aren't a patron, you're really missing out on some really awesome bonus content there. But we also offer $5 and $10 a month tiers on our Patreon that give you actual physical rewards, like really awesome stickers and recipe cards. I just got my sticker pack just around my birthday about a week and a half ago, and I freaking love it. And you guys are really missing out if you don't have these stickers in your life.
I know that you're just like squealing over the holographic stickers. So.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I like they're still sitting on my bookshelf because I haven't been able to figure out the perfect place to put them yet. I've been thinking about it. I'm like, do I put it on my laptop, or do I put it on my iPad, or do I put it on like, you know, my notebook, or do I put it on my door? Like, I'm like, where do I put the stickers? You only get to stick them once, you know? It's like you have to give them really good thought.
You know what? I'm just gonna get you like, you remember like those binders where like people would put like their trading cards in? That's
Yes.
what I'm gonna get you, like just for stickers, so you can just
collector's edition stickers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just use them like trading cards. You don't have to stick them anywhere.
Yeah, because you only get to stick them once. That's the hard part about stickers. Someone with anxiety, like stickers can be really difficult because because you overthink everything, and then you don't want to. You only get one chance.
Well, thank you for that insight into your brain.
Yes.
But let's get some insight into other people's brains. Yes. Because last week we had a burning question in our hearts and our souls and in our noses, apparently, now that we talk about like things reside in our noses, apparently. We asked, who was the bigger bully, Snape or Draco Malfoy, and why?
We got so many
answers. Oh my God.
Yeah, we got a ton of answers on this question. A lot of people had thoughts. Most of them were pretty aligned. We got like about 90% of the answers were for one person. However, we did get an opposing answer. So I'm going to share just a couple of the ones that we received.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So Sugoi, Sean, sorry if I said that wrong, on Twitter said Snape is the bigger bully because he's a professor and Harry's a student, and there's a big power imbalance between the two.
Can't say he's wrong. They're wrong.
Yep, very fair. Allie T. Haley on Twitter said Snape because he's a fully grown adult who chooses to actively terrorize children. Draco is a peer, and it's far worse coming from someone in power over you. Seeing a trend.
I mean, a fully grown adult is, yes.
Yeah. But our listener, Fiore A25 on Twitter, had a different opinion. They said, Draco, because he is just mean because he wants to be. He was raised a spoiled brat and always got his way. He is doing it just to do it. Snape has more complicated reasons for being the way that he is.
Okay. I mean, I can see that. Totally
so like,
agree with that.
I don't know, like, if the motivations behind someone being a bully make them a lesser or like worse bully.
Yeah, are we also, and I understand what you're saying, like are motivations enhancing or lessening the effect? Or are we going by like, this is how much power this person has over the other person, and this is the effect?
Yeah, like just because Snape might have a quote unquote good reason for being a bully, which there isn't a good reason really in general. But if it's if he has a quote unquote better reason for being a bully,
plausible reason, I guess.
Yeah,
believable reason.
Yeah. Does that mean that his bullying isn't as bad because he someone was mean to him growing up? I don't know. It's just something a little food for thought. And then Megan1553 on Instagram said Snape is the worst bully due to the fact that he is the adult and ought to act as one. Bullying children is petty, and one element of his character that I find inexcusable. Malfoy may be spoiled and petulant, but he is a child, and how he treats his peers, while awful, is not at the level of Snape treating his students abhorrently as their professor.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And the last one I'll share is Curvy42 on Instagram, who says, "Gotta agree with the consensus so far. Snape is a bigger bully than Draco. Draco's trying real hard, but as they said above, Snape's a whole-ass adult and hangs his whole ass out when he does it." And then they added, "I mean, even Voldemort primarily bullies other adults."
I'm sorry, this gave me life.
That's why I saved this one for last. Yeah, this is why I saved this one for last, because it was the most entertaining one to read. Thank you, Scurvy, or Curvy42.
Oh my goodness, this is great. Well,
yes.
we already have a question for this week. This week we want to know, do you think Harry using the Half-Blood Princess book to excel in potions class count as cheating?
Yeah, so obviously your co-host.
Are we team Ron or Hermione?
Are we team Helene or Adri? I mean, the co-hosts obviously in this episode disagreed on this a little bit. So yeah, do you agree with Helene and Ron, which is weird to even think about, or do you agree with Adri and Hermione? Was Harry cheating by using the Half-Blood Princess book to succeed in potions?
Can't wait to hear this.
Yeah, me too. It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be great.
I can't wait to win.
You can't wait to win with Ron, is what you're saying?
Oh, he's just there. He's just there for the ride.
All right, let's talk about other things. Let's talk about the media we've been consuming.
For me, nothing too new and exciting. I've been kind of, I've been on vacation. I saw my family last week. I haven't been watching a lot of new things that are different or really doing anything that was different. Oh, there is one thing I didn't write down that I just remembered, but I listened to an episode of a new podcast. I think it's called Love to See It. When I was on the plane this weekend. It is a Bachelor podcast.
Oh.
And the only reason why there's so many Bachelor podcasts out there, and I've tried one or two here and there and never really found one that I super vibe to. The only reason I listened to this one episode is because freaking Daniel Radcliffe was the guest on it. And
oh God, the fandoms collide.
You don't understand how completed I felt in my life when I found out that Daniel Radcliffe is also a fan of the Bachelor franchise.
Well, honestly, Helene, it just shows that he
my
is
soulmate
for you.
Yeah, he's my soulmate. And I have to say, he is so knowledgeable on everything about the Bachelor. Like, he's an actual fan. Like,
Helene, this is your in. This is how you start.
And I like, sadly, and maybe not so sadly, but just like petty, because I'm petty and I want him for myself. He was on the episode with his girlfriend. Like, they were him and his girlfriend were both guests on the episode. So they're both fans, and like, it's something that they probably bond over in their relationship and blah blah blah. But whatever.
blah, 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 blah.
Whatever, fine. I could be her. It's fine. Like, just switch us out. But yeah,
I'm happy for them.
If you want to hear Daniel Radcliffe talk about, like, very knowledgeably, and like, he is so emotionally intelligent. I already knew this, but like, it is confirmed how emotionally intelligent he is listening to this podcast. If you want to hear this, it's called Love to See It, and it's amazing and beautiful, and I love it.
Wow, Holly, I never thought you would get such a perfect podcast episode.
I know.
For like, that aligned with all, where the stars all aligned, basically, for you.
Yeah. I mean,
I love to see it.
It definitely, brought my spirits up to find out that the man that I've been in love with since I was 12 years old, actually 11 years old, is also a fan of The Bachelor.
Solid choice, Helene. Solid choice.
Like, what would make my life just complete is if Daniel Radcliffe started his own podcast about The Bachelor. Like, if I could listen to a Bachelor podcast episode every week where Daniel Radcliffe talks about The Bachelor, I would. I'm just sad that this was like a one-time thing.
Who knows? Maybe he got ideas,
Maybe.
Maybe he got the podcasting bug and he's like, I need to do this.
Please sign my petition to get Daniel Radcliffe to start his own Bachelor podcast.
Are we going to do a change.org petition?
I really want this to happen now. I love him. Yep, that's me. What about you?
Well, as we know, I love all the Real Housewives.
Mm-hmm.
I had to wait until I was back so that Seth and I could get up to speed on the Housewives.
Right.
Because of course we watch it together, just like Daniel Radcliffe and his girlfriend watch The Bachelorette. We watch the Housewives together.
Perfect.
Yeah, I know it's great. And and the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City premiered this past week. It has been explosive because one of the I don't know if anyone knows this, but one of the cast members got arrested.
Oh wow!
While they were filming, so it's going to be an explosive season.
Oh goodness! Wow. Okay.
Can't wait.
Goodness.
And also speaking of scammers, the Amazon Prime documentary Lula Rich. The documentary everyone's talking about on Twitter. It has everything. It has questionable fashion, intrigue, scamming, and basically white-collar crime, allegedly.
Okay, all right.
It is a documentary series.
Sounds like something my sister would like. I'll have to tell her about this.
Oh, honestly, I think you would also like it.
Probably. My sister is like super into documentaries, and like I tend to lean towards true crime documentaries. She will watch documentaries on anything.
Yeah, so this is like, obviously not like true crime in the sense of like white collar crime.
Yeah, I tend to like murder.
Yeah, I know, but you know what though? You know what is murder? Those leggings are murder. So
gosh.
Fashion victim 101. So you might be interested in it.
Maybe.
Colorful characters all around. Honestly, I think I need to talk to my therapist about it because, like, one of the main takeaways that I got from the documentary was like, where they failed? They got too greedy. I think I could get away with it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, you gotta try. You won't know until you try.
And then, like, there's like this other point where they were talking about, they were telling women, oh, you just do whatever you need to do in order to buy into the business because it's an MLM, right? And like the buy-in was $5,000, which is a fucking ton of money. And they said like, oh, if you have to sell your breast milk, do it. And I was like, is it weird that my takeaway is like, there's a market for that? What? You can make money from what?
You didn't know that?
No, I did not know that.
Oh, yeah.
And also like, again, my other takeaway was like, if I were doing this, I could get away with it because I would know when to stop. Because they got caught because they got too greedy is the problem.
You would be a perfect criminal.
I mean, obviously this is why God does not allow me the opportunity to become one because I would be unstoppable.
Oh, can't have that.
Can't have that. Well, that's it for today's episode. Please join us next week as we talk about Chapter 10 of Half-Blood Prince. And this one is titled The House of Gaunt.
If you've enjoyed this conversation, I know I did. I enjoyed this conversation quite a bit. If you like me, enjoyed this conversation, please take a second to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you happen to be listening to the conversation right now. It helps new listeners find the podcast, and we just, want people to find our podcast because that's why we do this. That's why we make a podcast, so people will listen to it.
Well, that and because we like talking to each other every week, obviously.
Yeah. Of course.
Until then, politics managed.
Support this show by going to patreon.com/Akiopolitics. Our patrons
keep this show going. You can find us online at occhiopolitics.com, and we are at Occiopolitics on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can email us your thoughts at info@occiopolitics.com. Leave us a voicemail at 915-996-1699, and you might just hear yourself on the podcast. Adriana Wilson is the founder and creative director of the podcast. Helene Karp is the producer and social media manager. Allison Pullman is the audio wizard and editor who makes us sound so good. Cover art and physical rewards are designed by Adriana Wilson. The views expressed by the hosts and guests are expressly their own and not representative of their employers or associates. Occiopolitics is part of the MuggleNet family of podcasts.